Okay, so the Irish Times, the main cover of the sports section is Wenger due some credit for Arsenal's strong start. I mean, come on! We'll get into that in a second. Relationship with players, not an issue, says Mourinho. Also, what the hell are you talking about when you refer to them as a virus? Apparently pre-match against Southampton, there was loads of stuff going on where he was saying the players were not really at it, and then at half-time is when he called Pogba a virus. So, interesting piece from Sean Moore in the Times this morning. It may be time to say that All-Star trips were great while they lasted. This is off the back of Michael Verney's brilliant story last week that there were more journalists on the All-Stars trip than there were players. Were you here for that? Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah. We had Dave on the Dadcast last week, live from Philadelphia, and he was like, yeah, very helpful story from Michael Verney. We were like, oh, is he on the trip? Like, no, he's not. But it was true. Apparently, someone did a good quick tot. 16, 14, more journalists. So maybe, I mean, the journalists did invent the All-Stars. It's their thing. So maybe that's okay?
Well, maybe. Well, why was there only 14 players? Is there not some sort of match abroad?
No, not anymore. No, they've cancelled the match. And then Gordon Darcy's "Don't break the cardinal rule, do your job" is how he effectively ended up focusing too much on trying to make his place in the World Cup.
Journalists should play the players. 16v14 as well. Extra man, two extra men.
There's enough young journalists these days now to replace them. Piling on the pressure, Gunners could add to Mourinho's woes. Man United versus Arsenal, 7-3, 6-2. Are these potential scores that the Arsenal fans are dreaming of tonight?
Of course, well...
The opportunity to smack it.
No.
8-2. Come on, this is your chance. This is a place in ruins.
It is still Arsenal. You do realise the football club you're talking about.
Yeah, but you've got Aubameyang now. It's different.
Aubameyang was there last season.
Scores with every shot, basically.
Well, that's also a problem, isn't it?
All at Tingle. Henderson couldn't be happier with Altior. So that's your Christmas Tingle Creek pun from the Racing Post this morning. Johnny Sexton, I was wrong about Nice Schmidt. He's done an interview with the BBC podcast, Rugby Union Weekly. He says, after meeting, so he met Joe Schmidt when he arrived at Leinster with Leo Cullen and John O'Gibbs, and after the meeting he turned around to them and said, yeah, that guy's a bit too nice to be a head coach, isn't he? And then he goes on to say, well, I was a bit wrong with that. He's the most ruthless. He is the most ruthless man I've ever met in terms of preparation. Leo clearly has better judgment than me. So, good stuff there from Johnny Sexton. I want Ireland top job one day, says Robbie Keane, who, you know, has done a good job of disguising the fact that he'd like to be the Ireland manager, hasn't he? We did not know that Robbie Keane wanted to manage the Republic of Ireland at some point. So, yeah, so that's the crack with that. Robbie wants the Ireland job. Ooh, is this today's? Indo, it is, yeah. So the front cover of the Indo, "Off the Ball" is the headline on the front of the Indo, underneath the picture of Ada Hegerberg, top player in sexism arrest. So they've gone on to talk about the story and that dickhead DJ. Scramble for Gibraltar as Irish tickets limited to 300. Good story from Dan McDonald saying that we're only going to get 300 tickets for the 2,300 capacity venue, and that will include all of the allocations for sponsors and VIP guests. Raft of new Munster deals have voted confidence in Sister Earl, so 12 new Munster players have signed deals in the last while, committing to staying with Munster. 12 new Munster players, sorry. And Katie Taylor will fight in Madison Square Garden against Eva Wallström from Finland on December the 15th on the Saul Alvarez, Ricky Fielding undercard. There was a story yesterday which kind of was a little bit buried in the Examiner about a change in the procedural running of Munster, which by Simon Lewis, which on the face of it was like fairly boring stuff, but what it means is that the executive are going to have more power to actually run the club, and the volunteers are going to take a little bit of a step back. And if you talk to any of the volunteers involved in Munster, it's like a very onerous thing to be on those committees, that actually this is one of those rare examples of the proverbial turkeys voting for Christmas saying, look, it's actually time that we professionalise as an organisation and give you guys the support that we can give you, with the freedom to go ahead and do the things that you need to do. So I think Munster is poised for massive leaps forward in the coming 12-14 months. The missing link, Donald and Chris Farrell, could shape Munster's destiny. Chris Farrell, definitely one of those players who, in his injury-enforced absence, has filled the public imagination with his potential. You think back to the vignettes in the Ireland games last year in the Six Nations and go, whoa, this guy's a pretty special player. You just hope that the expectation isn't too much and he doesn't try too much too soon. But
are you saying that his absence has caused us to remember him in a way that he wasn't?
No, I'm just saying that, like, we've filled in the blanks for what he would have done over the course of the last year, which we do with every player ever.
Yeah, I would say that.
It's the Andy Reid / Wes Hoolahan effect.
It has been so.
He had another foot on those.
It has been a very brief glimpse we've got of Chris Farrell in an Ireland jersey under Joe Schmidt. But I would ask, who has been the last player to make such an instant impact under Joe Schmidt in an Ireland jersey who has fizzled out? There hasn't really been anyone. Like the glimpses we've seen, the likes of the Dan Levys, the likes of the James Ryans, Stockdale.
Yeah.
Like anybody who's gone and made that sort of impact, being close to the man of the match.
You become World Player of the Year candidate.
Like you do tend to keep it up. So I would say the hype around Chris Farrell is very, very real.
Oh, look,
but there's no question that the
No, you're a Munster fan. You're supposed to love it. It's exactly why people love sport. You fill the blanks in your head and you daydream and you go, yeah, this guy's amazing.
Yeah, well, we're also Irish. We also have to be very, very cautious about getting ahead of ourselves, do you remember?
Munster now have like 4 brilliant centres. So from we had no centres, are completely screwed, no future for Munster rugby, we've got no centres, and like, well, all of a sudden you've got 4 in the space of 2 years.
And 4 out halves. And it's just like 4 in every position. You talk about Leinster's depth. That's the one point.
Yeah, you can give us back Joey Carberry now.
That's the one point that Alan Quinlan always makes, is that the depth actually isn't far away, like not comparing it to Leinster, but from a Munster perspective in terms of having a deep squad of 23 that could go into a European Cup semi-final this season and actually challenge. You were actually getting close to that position, fitness pending, of course. Back page of the Herald this morning is Gunners lineup limp United. Injury crisis at Old Trafford will be put to test by Arsenal's newfound spirit, and there's that result from last night. Abdoulaye Doucouré there scoring Watford's consolation goal as Manchester City beat them 2-1 at Vicarage Road. Back page of the Irish Daily Star this morning is simply the chest. City improvised to see off Hornets. Leroy Sané scoring with his chest last night. Jose saying it's not about me. And Lancaster wanted, says the top story at the top of the paper here. Stuart Lancaster could feature on England's wish list to succeed Eddie Jones 4 years after being sacked. The RFU have gone on the record to say they'd have no problem calling up Stuart Lancaster if he was the right man for the job, and they're going to speak to everybody and anybody who might be in the mix. Back page of the Sun this morning is Poch has Snapchat. He doesn't really. He definitely doesn't. No dressing room selfies till he wins something. And simply the chest as well there. Sané and co, much better than the rest. Back page of The Guardian this morning is United we stand. Mourinho says, whether or not they like me, players are paid to perform. And City march on at the top. Guardiola's men go 5 points clear of Liverpool as Sané and Mara's goals prove enough despite late drama. And over to you, Liverpool, says the front of the Daily Telegraph sports section this morning. Sané and Mara's strike to open 5 point gap at the top as City survived late scare.
Yeah, because we weren't sure about that game yesterday. It was like Watford, one of those teams who can pull out big performances against big teams, who can go on a 3 or 4 game winning streak and allay all fears that they're going to have a season marred in relegation, and then have 4 or 5 games where they actually stick the joint out. So they put it up to City last night.
They did.
These are the games where City have to drop points, right?
Yeah, well, these are the games that, say, during the peak Ronaldo years under Alex Ferguson, there might have actually been a point dropped, or there might have been a very late winner. Now, granted, there was a bit of a late scare here last night for Manchester City, but I don't think the 2-1 scoreline really does it justice. Like, Ben Foster was like an octopus in the first half. He made a couple of outstanding saves, his arms in positions that no human should ever have their arms in those positions. Like, this Manchester City team is irresistible. The players they left out last night, like they are like kind of choosing Fabian Delph when they need to at left back at this point. Like, Mahrez has turned into one of the best signings we've seen this summer. I don't think people expected Mahrez to fit in as seamlessly as he has done.
What role is he performing? Where's he playing?
Right wing. He was right wing last night anyway.
And sticking to the wing, or is he?
He was pretty wide last night. I'm trying to think now. Who was it? A 3 or a 4 at the back? But it was because Walker was playing a little bit more inside, so they probably needed Mahrez further out wide. So then you had Bernardo Silva occupying that pocket as sort of that advanced 8 on the right hand side, so Mahrez could cling to the touchline a little bit more. Which is an unusual role, because for Leicester, obviously, we didn't really see Mahrez hugging the touchline that much, but he was doing it last night and he was pretty bloody good. Sané on the other wing, like the pace that guy has. It's just, he gets himself into a position where it's like, right, this defence should be safe. It's 1-on-3, and then Sané just takes one touch and he sort of runs away from them like he's in a game of FIFA, and he's hacked his pace stats to the point where nobody can catch him. That's what it's like watching Leroy Sané at the moment. They need to sign that guy up to the new contract. We were discussing it yesterday morning that might actually come to a head sooner rather than later, the Leroy Sané situation. But again, I think that scoreline actually last night sums up the Premier League title race, that it looks like it's a close thing, but really it's not. Like Liverpool could go beyond into February, March, under 5 points behind Manchester City, and you can still visibly see that they are not going to catch them. Just like last night, it was a 2-1 win, but there was no way Watford were going to win that game last night.
All right, fair enough.